There you go.
Bonjour, Hillsborough. Y Michael Howard, quien necesita su propia presentación. ¿Qué hora es?
5:30.
¿Dónde?
En todas partes.
Así es, son las 5:30 y todas partes. Y yo soy Eryk.
Yo soy Lana.
Preparemos para los fiestas para... Oh, espera. Espera. Oh, ay de mí, lo siento. Hey, I'm sorry. Hey, okay, there we go. Hey guys, it's 5:30 everywhere. Welcome. I know you've been waiting all week for this big party. It's Friday. So you know... Oh, what happened?
No, go ahead. Ice.
Oh, ice. Yeah, it's Friday. So you're probably right about now saying, hey, what can we get for takeout around here? Don't forget, Radius right across the street. They got DIY pies, so you can make your own pizza at home. And over at Antonia's tonight, their date night meal deal, which you can get inside the restaurant or bring it home with you, is baby heirloom tomatoes caprese with balsamic glaze, grilled mahi with mango chutney served with white wine, parmesan, risotto, and sauteed green beans, limoncello cheesecake with ginger snap crust, and a bottle of Louis Latour or dish. $74. $74. But y'all thirsty?
So today I'm kind of on a mezcal kick lately. So today we're going to make a mezcal margarita. All fresh ingredients, as much as possible. So handy dandy shaker with ice already. And I'm going to use dry curacao. You can use triple sec. You can use blue curacao if you want to make a blue margarita, whatever. This is just a little bit of sweetener and a little bit of orange. So I'm just going to do a half ounce of that. And then, you know, as per usual, I'm going to use the Del Maguey Vida mezcal, and I'm going to do a full 2 ounces of that. Bam, right in there. And then I went ahead and squeezed some fresh lemon and lime juice. I did a little bit of both because I like the combination of both. I think lime is a little too tart. Lemon smooths that out. So we're going to do 1.5 ounces. Oh, look at that. Perfect. Of lemon and lime juice. What's my other ingredient? Oh, yeah, a little bit of we're going to use our habanero infused simple syrup. So depending on so we make simple syrup. We add a bunch of sliced habaneros to it, and we just let them sit in there, and it gets good and spicy. And I will do about 3/4 of an ounce of that as well. Put it all in the shaker. Shaky. Doesn't need to go too much because we're going to actually serve this on the rocks. So you just give it a good shake. Put a little bit of dilution in there, which is awesome. And then get your glass, whatever glass works for you, a lime, and I get a little bit of lime juice just around the outside because salt inside the drink to me is gross. So I try to get the salt only on the outside of the rim. Beautiful. And then I'm just going to pour that straight in there and then top it off with fresh ice. You can, if you want, strain it over fresh ice because this ice has already started a little bit of melting, but I think it's okay. There you go.
What you got?
Ooh, fancy meeting you here. Woo, that's good.
Spicy and smoky, which is a great segue because that perfectly describes our guest for this evening, Mr. Ex-Mayor Tom Stevens. Put your hands together.
Well, hello, everybody. It's good to be here.
Man, it's good to see you. So a lot has changed since you've been mayor.
Yeah, a little bit.
Damn, son. Yeah. For one, we used to walk right outside the door, and we could see you walking around at some point almost all day and all night. But man, it's strange. I think this is the longest we've gone without seeing you, Tom.
I know. I see Lana walking the dog every once in a while. So yeah, and it's so quiet in town. I was mayor for 14 years. And one of the things that I remember hearing about almost every day was people talking about the traffic how bad the traffic was. It was too crowded. I haven't heard that lately from anybody. I think we'd like some of that traffic back right now.
That was the thing I think I remember that they're always giving you the business over. They were like, oh, Hillsborough's growing too fast. There's too many new things. There's too many cars. Why? Well, guess that got fixed.
Yeah. So, well, I miss you all, and I miss sort of being able to just walk around and you see people in town and shake hands and hug and say hey and sit down with folks and have beverages and sort of go from establishment to establishment or pop into the different shops. And, I still live 2 blocks away. So I do go by there every while. And I'm still don't really have the gallery open, but I still have the painting in there and try to keep the windows there for people who walk by. So it looks nice. So, but hey, we're all in this together.
You know the keywords. Very good.
I know the keywords.
Delicious.
So my old fashioned for the night.
For those of you playing at home, every time somebody says,
we're all in this together.
Everybody has to take a drink.
Or, hey, it's the new normal.
It's the new normal.
Hey, so speaking of the gallery, I know that was your big plan. Like when you stepped down from being mayor, your big plan was, hey, you were going to work more on the art and on the gallery side of things. How what's going on with the gallery? Do you open for appointments, or what's the game plan now?
Well, I starting in June, I will be back open for appointments, which is how I generally ran the gallery, but would have been open tonight, would have been last Friday Art Walk, and that was always a very busy time. We usually had a lot of folks would come in, and that's where people would see the work, and it was not atypical for people to come in a couple times and say, yeah, I really want this, and come back. And so that's a good piece of the business. A good part of being an artist is just producing the work. So this is in many ways wonderful. I get to do just work all day to produce art. The selling the art part is and keeping the gallery open is kind of on hold right now. But my commitment towards my I want to say my big push right now is to continue to be full-time professional artist, and we'll continue to do that. How we're going to do the gallery, I think that remains a little to be seen. So I'm rolling with it like you are, like we all are, and we'll figure out a way. I've started a little online show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So every week I post. I call it a mini show. I call it a room 7 plus or minus 2. So I'll just post 7 plus or minus 2 items, which is what you can kind of take in at one setting. And here's a little sample of my work. And so for the month of May, I've been doing that every Friday. I did a double header today.
Where is that at? Where can people find that?
ThomasStevens.com. So everybody knows me as Mayor Tom. I go my artist name when I sign pieces, Thomas. So it's ThomasStevens.com, and you'll see some artworks, and you'll see one little menu item there is room 7 plus or minus 2, and that's the weeklies. So this is the 5th Friday we've had in May, the last Friday. So there's 5 of those, and I think I'm going to continue that into June. I think it's been pretty well received. Nice.
Have you found it? How have you found it easy, hard? How has your production level or your focus changed any? Like to do work? Is it difficult to work during this kind of time?
Well, to be honest, I haven't found the new normal. Cheers. So, there's a lot of construction that's been going on in those buildings, and my gallery was next for some renovations, and that's been on hold for a while now. I think that'll circle back around. And I was thinking to myself last January and February, if I only had a couple months with a little space in between, I could really catch up. I figured out that wasn't the problem.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I think like other folks, I'm being productive, but trying to stay focused is sometimes a struggle. You get caught up in the news, you get caught up with what's happening around the world, and I'm starting to get in the swing of it now. But I suspect just a little item of seriousness. Yeah, so it's getting a little focused. What I've been doing then, rather than just trying to produce a lot of works, is to experiment with a lot of different materials that I wouldn't normally have the opportunity. I'm trying a little watercolor, a little pen and ink, some more drawings, and I think that's. I think when this year is over, my work is really going to be a notch better than what it was a year ago, maybe more so than it would have been. So I'm happy about that. But I, like everybody, just trying to sometimes feel like I'm floundering around a little bit, even when I can look at say, yeah, I've done a fair amount today.
I know that's a big concern I have too, working, as a writer, is, wondering like when, hopefully this whole thing is over and we've moved on, did I use my time wisely enough? I know they keep pointing out, well, William Shakespeare wrote King Lear during a quarantine. And it's like, yeah, well, William Shakespeare didn't have Twitter and wasn't constantly checking, the stock market and what did the president say today? Who did he declare an economic war with today? Hong Kong. There's, there wasn't this constant need to check everything, or ability to during Shakespeare's time. And yeah, I don't think I'm going to write King Lear anyway. So yeah, I know that that's been a constant complaint I've heard from lots of artists and writers, is that the focus isn't here. Us personally, before this whole thing started, our biggest issue was we needed to hire somebody because I wanted to take a week off in April so that I could write something. But we never got anybody hired, which means we didn't have to fire anybody. And I still got a week off in April. So
yeah, so there you go.
That's delicious.
Well, Eryk, one thing you may not know about me, but so I got somewhat involved in art when I was in college, but my ambition when I was an undergraduate was to be a writer.
Oh, yeah.
I was studying with Max Steele and a lot of the writers at UNC, and I was going to write children's books.
No kidding.
And I got rejected by any number of different places, and who knows, that still might happen. And I dabbled a little bit in art, and of course, one of the things I did was take a life drawing class, and that really inspired me ever since to really focus in on the human figure and that work, which apparently I have a little bit of a brand about that, so that's a good thing.
Are you talking about the human figure?
Yeah, the French girls, all that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we still have several of them in the hallway right here.
You have some of the wonderful Peccadillo paintings that are in the back, and I've always appreciated you all making a space, because being in that sort of pub establishment is the perfect place for them. That's what they were designed to be seen in. But I've been a student of the human figure since college days, and it's going to be about 40 years now.
Well, tell folks, if you don't mind. Just on the off chance they're not familiar with the Peccadillo series, tell people what those are.
Well, essentially, they're a series of, I'm going to say, classical nude paintings, although they're very modern women. And the best compliment I ever received, I asked somebody who did not know me or know that I was the artist. A couple of young women who were sitting at Peccadillo, which was a bar in Chapel Hill in Scarborough. And I said, what do you think of this art on the wall? Because I kind of worry, there's nudes and the male gaze, and am I being respectful of women? I feel like I am, but just want to see how other people are responding. And I remember her eyes got really big, and she said, oh, I want to be her. She's comfortable in her skin.
Yeah.
And I felt like I captured something nice. And so these are really sort of big. They got these big red backgrounds, and they're very, very cool. Peccadillo was a very classy bar kind of on Chapel Hill, Scarborough, that did very nice drinks, very limited, and had all these bare walls. And I went in one time and I said, you need artwork in here. And with a name like Peccadillo, I know what kind of artwork you need. and the owner came out to look at my work, and other than some larger drawings, all my paintings were pretty small, but he liked them, and he said, paint up some things. So I started doing the big nudes, and for 4 years I sort of rotated paintings through Peccadillo until they closed. And I still have them here, kind of where I'm sitting in my dining room. They're at the gallery, but I always sort of appreciated that someplace like Yonder had a place for those. And I was one of the first shows. It wasn't the first show you had, I think, but one of the first shows.
No, I think you were the first.
Oh, maybe it was the first show.
Well, it was the first for the King Street Bar when we took that over. You and Gerard stayed and shared the wall.
Yes.
Oh yeah, and that was great because I don't think you mentioned it, but the subjects are local Hillsborough people. Like you would be able to recognize, a majority of the women in the paintings. And I remember one time that a young woman came in here to get a drink, and I told her, I was like, "Hey, you look familiar," and she was like, "I should. There's a naked painting of me on the wall right over there." I got a picture. I should have had it loaded up for everybody to see, but yeah.
That's Sarah, by the way.
I am grateful. Some people, never want to do that, but some people think, that would be interesting to be painted. And again, the compliments are, you've really just made me look, beautiful. And I think people are beautiful. And I do males as well, although most of the paintings are female. I did sculpture mostly in the 1990s. I was doing sculpture, and you'll see some of the male sculptures.
And this is what you went to school for?
No, I studied writing, and then I have a master's degree in social work. So I worked for 30 years as a social worker. I was an executive director of an agency. I started a leadership consulting company. I missed the community work from being a nonprofit executive as a social worker, so I decided to get involved in the community and ran for mayor, and which is mostly volunteer work, and was always doing art though for the last 20 or 30 years, and felt like a professional. I would show in galleries, but when I was kind of ready to just do this full time as an artist, it's something that I knew I couldn't be mayor and be an artist, and it was really time to sort of step aside and let somebody else, let some new leadership in.
Good timing. Way to go, Tom.
I did not know this.
Jen mentioned
I would be on meetings like this. I talked to the Mayor Weaver earlier this week, and I think she's doing a fabulous job. I feel very good about my successor, and we hadn't talked in probably 6 weeks or something, and she said, I've been meaning to call you, and I'm so sorry. And he says, but I'm in meetings all day, and all the meetings are Zoom meetings, and how exhausting it is, and I just couldn't do one more phone call, and we get that, so we talk when we need to, and I appreciate her front porch Facebook Live posts that she does, and she did a very nice letter in the News of Orange that I encourage people to go see. I think she's doing a nice job, but she stepped into a job that is way bigger than I think than anybody would have expected.
Yeah, no kidding. No.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like she's just walking around and shaking hands and kissing babies,
Yeah.
Those days are gone.
Can't kiss no more babies. Can't kiss no more babies. Hey, walk us through that decision, and also the transition. I mean, I know that this transition is probably way more jarring than it was originally supposed to be, but yeah, walk us through that decision. Like, it was 14 years. You probably could have ran another 14 and won. What all went into it?
Well, maybe, and the mayor gets elected every 2 years, but I really did this out of a sense of wanting to be involved in the community. Really love this town. Being mayor is in many ways being chief cheerleader, and I had a good skill set for I think what needed, especially where we needed to be 15 years ago, and that was to help with planning. And we are so lucky to have such a wonderful town manager and very professional staff and people who are so dedicated, who make us who are elected officials look good. I think I brought something particularly, I'm a professional facilitator, and that's really what the board needed. And if the board is functioning well and people are getting heard, and again, some of the best compliments I ever got as mayor was people who would come to our town board meetings and sit in the audience, and people from other towns or developers or somebody making a presentation, And they'd come to me after the meeting and saying, whether you're for this or against this, I've never hardly seen a meeting well run and people working together. And that's the one thing I think that I brought to help make everything else work. And at one level, it wasn't all that much, and yet it was a very key ingredient that I think helped make all the other things work. But I cannot commend the town manager enough. And I think it set a tone for Hillsborough. And once that tone is in the culture, we have this culture about we're going to listen to each other. We're going to think about what it is that we're trying to accomplish. Then it's not really dependent on any one person. That culture gets carried from people who believe in it. And I think Mayor Weaver does that. I think all the commissioners, certainly the staff. There's a lot in the news now about police departments. We've seen a lot about that in our police department, and we're all struggling with that. And Hillsborough's not a perfect place, but we're in many ways have been ahead of the curve in dealing with some of these issues that our country deals with. If the country could do like what Hillsborough has been doing, we would be I think in a little bit better shape. Right. And it is easier to do in a much smaller scale, but still love this town. Still think we've got a very, very good team. And so the transition for me is now I get to do art. As mayor, I really step aside and very hands off. In one sense, it's been pretty easy. Debbie and I have a very good life here. I have a nice garden, so we feel very fortunate. We have Riverwalk to walk on, and you've been mentioning all the places to eat. We're going to try Nomad for the first time tonight. We've got some takeout. I'm going to pick up after we get off tonight. So it really has a real sense of community that has a feel for it. And you guys, when you do this show, has sort of captures that.
Well, yeah, thank you very much. Like that's there's really no shortage of quote unquote characters around town that that I find really, really interesting, and hopefully we're able to
Hillsborough is a town with character and of characters, absolutely.
Yeah, right. That you mentioned Nomad. That's been one of the biggest things too. Is like we just kept saying over and over all last year. We're like, man, there was never any foot traffic on this street. After 6 o'clock when Cup of Joe closes, there's never anything. And we always felt like we'd done pretty well here. And we were like, just imagine when Nomad opens up, we're going to be even busier. And then Colonial Inn down the street, 900 homes down the road, and then kaboom. Yes. The old pandemic shuffle,
Yeah, the new normal.
So that's it. There you go.
Man.
So that's been it's been a sting, but I'm really looking forward to.
I had planned had in my head this fantasy art show that was going to tie in to Nomad opening and how exciting that was going to be in the Colonial Inn. And you see in my window this big poppy painting, and that was going to be one of several that I was really wanting to do, and it was just going to call it King Street in Bloom. And what a beautiful street, both the natural parts of it and the vibrancy that you see everywhere, from Cup of Joe in the day and you folks and Purple Crow across the street, and one important long-term community place like Dual Supply is across the street. It's different now, and I grieve the big foot traffic and kind of blossoming that wasn't going to happen, and yet here we have Nomad launching in spite of the pandemic, and
they were set to launch
across the street.
They were set to launch
like the week of,
like the weekend of St. Patty's. So they
those poor guys. Yeah, I mean, like we encourage that. We had their food in here for a pop-up kitchen once. I think it was like last August, and it was amazing. Yeah. And so we've just been like counting the days, looking forward to them opening. So we're really, really hopeful that we get to all work on the same street together. Hey, another big question that artists and writers have been asked is, will the pandemic factor into your work? I know, like, in my work that I'm supposed to be doing, we reference it, but we reference it in the past tense, because if this thing gets published, it won't be till 2021. So hopefully it's in the past tense. Do you see this pandemic influencing any of your work? Are you hoping to excise it?
Yeah, in two different ways. I mean, I think one is how I'll present the work. Like I said, I'm doing this online, like here's little samples every week, and sort of online work. And just how to present the work, I think even after this pandemic, I'm sort of thinking about what's my business model going to be like, and probably have just a couple, maybe a bit larger shows, but with fewer people coming through at each time. And then I think in the work itself, it sort of makes me think of what do I want to express? One of the things I probably have 100 paintings in my head right now. I want to get back to sculpture. And some of the things that in the next, I think, 60 days that I'm going to be painting, other than a couple commissions, I started my landscape career with a show called Backyard Play. And it was like a puzzle, and it was all parts of my garden. I think some of the work that I'm going to be doing is going to be much more in my backyard. Here's what's going to be happening in other people's backyards, and what's it like at home, and here are garden scenes. So yes, I think this work is going to seep in, as well as into the figure works. And I think again, how do we capture folks? I don't think I'm going to be doing nudes with masks. But,
yeah, there you go. There you go.
That's good to know.
Yeah, I know that one of your more popular series that we've seen was like the stick work pieces that you did. Those, I remember the first last Friday, they were just being snatched up. And I think that, it was like a snapshot quality almost, that not of the painting, but just of a moment in time where that stick work was here, it was gone, but your paintings of it lasted forever and people wanted to have a piece of that. I didn't know if pandemic and this moment was something people would want to be reminded of, or if it was something that, I don't know, that somehow we can commemorate in our work. I'm still looking for it. Right now, I think we're too close to it.
I think well said. I would say stay tuned. It will obviously seep into our work in a couple different ways. And I'm not planning something that here's the artwork about the pandemic, and which is quite legitimate. The portraits that Sia has recently done, again, was featured in the News at Orange, and we were, Debbie and I were one of the subjects for that, and so that was a lot of fun and good to see. And those are being done around the country, so I think there will be works, but I think you'll see the kind of the influences. Like here is more works of little isolated places. In some ways, you see my works like the Sidewalks of Hillsborough, which has a lot of artistic license. There, you don't see a whole lot of figures. I do a lot of figure work, and then I do a lot of landscapes, and you don't see the two together. And so it's like, the landscapes are already, you got the social distancing in there. So it'll be interesting if I start pulling those together and start putting work where more people are together. So I think those ideas will be playing around in the work, but it's still a little soon to see how it's going to percolate.
Yeah, maybe you don't notice it now, but in the future you'll be like, oh, well, that's why that turned out that way, because that was the life of the times.
Yeah.
Times.
Hey, speaking of staying at home, you're having to cook your own bourbon now, right?
I've got a good supply, thank you.
Yeah.
You see how hard it is, right? You have to remember to put the ice in a separate glass and the bourbon in this glass. It's hard, but you see it now. What kind of work you have to go through.
Just do that. I've taken to making my own old fashions. I miss the old fashions that you make me, and I've learned I think to do it pretty well. Or my straight bourbon up, or a little bit of a nice Cote de Rhone red wine, or kind of our go-tos at cocktail hour.
Well, I know you used to like to work your way around Hillsborough and get drinks at different places. I appreciate that. Very democratic of you. We thought maybe if you haven't done it yet, one suggestion should be you should put one bottle of bourbon in the bedroom, and one bottle of bourbon in the living room, and one in the kitchen, and then one outside. And you can just walk from room to room between each drink. and see who's in.
That's how we go bar hopping around here now, and one outside just in case,
Old Tom Stevens pub crawl, absolutely.
You got to do what you got to do.
Oh yeah, it's the new normal. So, well, so before we, woo, smoky.
It's spicy. There's a whole habanero in the bottom of this glass that we're about to get to.
So what's for dinner? You said you're going to Nomad. My bad. So what are you watching on TV? Are y'all binging anything? You watching anything?
We are not TV watchers. No.
What about book readers? Are you book readers, pod listeners?
Book readers. Just I'm about halfway through. Debbie read and loved Lee Smith's new little book, with Marlin Hotel. Was that? Yeah. And so enjoying that. Looking at the garden. I tend to watch YouTube videos about doing art. Sometimes watch all classic movies. One of my favorites, and you would appreciate it if you haven't seen it, it's a 1994 Hugh Grant movie called Sirens. And I learned something that I can't believe I did not know this. But that's about Hugh Grant plays this minister who's trying to talk this artist who does all these kind of nudes, talk him out of withdrawing a particular nude out of a show. Because they find it blasphemous, and he goes and visits at his home and compound where he's living with his wife and all the other models and all the shenanigans that kind of happen around that. And it's wonderful. And I always thought it was just kind of the great fantasy of the artist who you got all the models that you need and everything living there, how wonderful it would be. I just learned that is a real artist, and actually that is his real home, and all the sculpture and the artwork are real places. It's one of the great artists of Australia, Norman Lindsay. So I've watched that movie another time with a greater appreciation now. So it's a fun movie.
Nice.
At least PG-13.
Yeah, I remember some of the actors in there. That's got Elle McPherson in it, right?
I don't remember that.
Old Sports Illustrated model. Hey kids, ask your parents.
That's actually of his time, of my time for sure.
Yeah,
so.
We're talking to all the kids that are out there watching us on the TikTok. Well, I tell you what, we're planning on something kind of crazy next week. We're going to try it out, but we have all these exotic beers that we brought from all different corners in North Carolina, as well as some bottles of wine that are pretty difficult to find in our region. So we have a distributor that brings it all the way from France and various places. And so what we're gonna start doing is kind of we were inspired by Kate and Mick from Radius, how they do DIY pizzas. So we're gonna do DIY beer and wine. So it's just like you're going to a bar and drinking beer, wine, but you buy it from us and you take it home and drink it. So we're gonna try that out. So different beers and wines. We want people to come in next week and try some of these DIY beers and wines. And so y'all stay tuned. We're going to have the hours posted very soon. But, yeah, maybe you can come on in here and who knows.
Get a little French wine. I love a little French wine.
French, there's Serbian wines. There's some really they go to some pretty exotic places. It's stuff that you can't get at Total Wine and more and those other places. So, yeah, so we're going to have some really nice, personally selected wines. That you can take home and drink at home. We will not be able to serve them here per se, not yet. But you'll be able to come in and buy some wine and take it home, which would be awesome.
Yep, and it's going to be, we'll have the hours posted. The only rules are you come on in here. We encourage everyone to wear their mask.
Absolutely.
Wear their mask, wash their hands, and if you're feeling sick, stay home. And nobody from Alamance County is allowed in here. Nobody. I know what you're thinking. You can't say that. Well, guess what? I just did.
Okay.
We're just trying to keep our people safe. We're trying to keep our people safe.
It's really important to keep everybody safe. And we'll have to drink to this, but in many ways, we really are in all this together. And
yeah.
You're here. Cheers, you all.
Cheers, you, man. And thank you very much for hanging out with us. We missed the hell out of you. We can't wait for everything to get back onto however it's supposed to get, and so we can start pouring you some more bourbon. We can't.
I've got some more Peccadillo paintings too to switch out, and when people can come back.
Well, maybe we'll get a gallery showing if you've got the big wall. Maybe we'll get a big wall showing going.
Let's do it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's do it. We can make our own last Friday. Hopefully, it's not the last Friday.
The last Friday.
But anyway, on that note, hey, Tom, thank you very much, man. It's really good to see you again.
Thank you.
All right, talk soon. I'll see you around town.
Be good. And yeah, like we said, check us out on our website and etc. because we'll let you know what the hours are. It'll be next week. We'll be selling beer. We'll be selling wine. We'll be having take it home and drink it.
Maybe sangria. Maybe something in the slushy machine. I don't know. You might have to bring your own receptacle if we're gonna do something like that. But yeah, we're working out the kinks.
Yeah, and if there's anybody that's all about kinks, it's Lana and I. So y'all come on in and let us tell you all about them. We'll see you very soon.
Bye.
Adios.
Ciao.